Now, if there's one thing you can always be assured of when you're dealing with Riptide, is it'll be a bit different. So I walked into the office this afternoon intending to do an interview about the show, and immediately Alex goes, "You're going to be going live on the web." So what is it about Riptide that makes you want to break the conventions?
I think... So we try and challenge the status quo in everything we do. So for our previous projects, we've tried to make a show throughout a whole city instead of just in the conventional theatre building. And for this show, we're, I think, going a step further, really. This is the Lucky Ones is a month-long experience.
Okay, let's wind back a bit then.
Okay.
So Riptide is a Leeds-based theatre company. How long have you been going?
About 4 years now, working in Leeds. We're made up of really exciting independent artists who have their different fields in technology or in audience development, or we have a team of designers we work with, or local actors as well.
And in the past, people will be aware of what you've done. The one I recall with great affection is You Are Here, which was... Describe the experience for me.
So You Are Here was a one-on-one interaction through Leeds city centre. So you met at Millennium Square at your own individual performance time, and from there you were told anyone you meet from now could be part of the performance. So in that sense, as soon as you leave Millennium Square, the whole city becomes theatrical, and your story unfolded as you met different people through.
Now, what I remember very much from that was the way it made me look at the city with new eyes. It's something I did review for the Culture Vulture at the time, and it was seeing a homeless man. I looked at him and thought, he's got to be straight from Central Casting. But no, he was a homeless man that normally I would have ignored. And a bit further on, there was a black guy kind of with the beats. And I thought, he's got to be an actor. He looks like an actor. He's not an actor. But then a random woman who I hadn't even clocked taps me on the shoulder and says, "You've dropped something."
Yeah.
And then that was in my cue into the next bit of the story there. Now, that was for an hour, and I could kind of enjoy that for an hour. Your new performance is going to take a month to play out. So just give me some idea, how does that work?
So you buy a ticket as normal, and after you get a confirmation email, you then you get something in the post. So you give up details such as your postal address or your email, your phone number, so we can contact you. And
so you're stalking me.
So this is one of the main fears, I think, for audience members. This is a magical, lovely experience that you go through. It's less scary. It's not like a scary thing that we're watching you. They're more techniques of how we can interact in your day-to-day life.
Right. So I'm contacted by some magic means.
Yeah.
I then find out that you're wanting me to do something. What happens from there?
So it also depends on the choices you make as an audience member. So depending on what you decide, changes your story. So if you choose to go down one route of the narrative, you may be asked to meet someone, or you may be asked to drop something off somewhere, or interact in the real world in some way. That will then lead on to the next experience.
So this is going to really cut into someone's life for a month. If this is happening, you've got to deliver something, you've got to meet someone. We've all got busy lives. How do we fit this around it?
So this is a pervasive experience, not an invasive experience. So the difference is it works much like a podcast or a really gripping novel that you're reading. So when you decide to open the novel, it continues. But when you decide to close it because you have work, or because you have kids, or because you have a meal that evening, it stops, and it doesn't come into your life in those moments. So
you can hit pause.
You can hit pause, and it doesn't... You can hit pause for several days, and it doesn't stop the experience. It will always be there until you have the time to pick it up again.
But it does say on the FAQs on the website that you've got to be around for basically the whole of the month of March, because if you're going to have a week in Tenerife, it's not going to work.
So you've got to be within Leeds. You can't experience this really if you're living in London, for example, because you will have to travel in to react with the city in some way.
Just a good thing, that.
Yeah.
It's like living in London.
Exactly. And I think if you go away for 5 days, I think that is our cut-off point, really, mainly because we don't want that to spoil the experience. So if you are going on holiday, you can still buy a ticket, obviously, but it's just having that awareness that you may not be able to interact with it in the same way that if you were here.
Okay, so let's just go down a few essentials. How much does it cost?
So it's £40, which we've worked out as roughly £10 per week for an immersive experience.
Well, you pay that for a good ticket at the Playhouse any night. Now, in terms of then what happens next, you've told us we contacted. How many times during a week do we expect to contact?
So this depends on how proactive you are as an audience member. If you really want that engagement and want to contact us every hour, for example, I mean, it's a bit extreme, but we will have that. The experience lends itself to that. So you're able to do that extreme, but also if you're a really busy person, it also works in that way.
Right, so you tailor it to the individual audience member. I find it an odd term, audience member, in this context, but you tailor it to the individual participant. And at the end of it, is there a beginning, a middle, and an end?
Yeah, it's actually behind. We've not put it on the screen deliberately for not to spoil the surprise. But so we have 3 acts that you go through. Sorry, that's mine.
Wonders of modern technology.
Yeah. So you go through 3 acts of the narrative, and but it's different to a normal. It's more almost like a create your own adventure book that has a narrative. So you choose if you want to be the hero in this story, you do some things. But if you want to be the villain in this story, and you want to test whether there are the fail safes so say if you get a message from one of the characters and you want to react in a really aggressive manner, for example, that isn't in keeping in your personality, just to test the system, there are things in place for that.
So you've worked out just about every possible permutation, and something will happen depending on what the individual participant does.
That's the idea, hopefully.
And what do you hope at the end of it all people will feel about having been a participant?
So the initial idea for this was, I was having a conversation with one of my friends from home, and they said, I think everyone has felt like they wanted to be their own Truman in their own Truman Show. So at some point, I think everyone...
So that's the inspiration?
A little bit, yeah. And it's about how... I mean, we've taken inspiration from shows such as Black Mirror on Netflix, or there's a film called The Game that is quite important for me personally. But it's that kind of idea that you're the centre of this world that you're going into, and that you're important, and that you're not one of many sat in the dark, and it's you. That's really important for me, actually. Yeah.
And what will define success for you at the end of this project?
So getting 100 people through an experience that is bespoke to them, and that they feel that we've genuinely interacted with them as a individual person, and that we've created something bespoke. I think if we can get to that point, I mean, when do you ever get a month-long experience of any? I mean, there's people in America doing this for like £10,000 that you would pay that a massive amount to get a personalised product, in effect.
And how important is Leeds as a cast member here?
Definitely. I mean, as you said, like I think it's quite nice for us actually to play on that, because we're from the city, we see the different nuances in the city every day. So it's just about drawing those out for audience members who maybe don't see them, or it's about them tuning into those even after the performance has ended even.
Okay, so the nuts and bolts of it, in order to get involved, you have to sign up in advance. That's on the website.
It is. So
or on this Facebook page.
Exactly. So it's theriptide.co.uk, and on there is the links to the tickets. We've also got an FAQ sheet, so anyone who's still a little bit unsure about anything to do with that experience, I think, covered most
And
areas.
it all kicks off. Is it 1st of March, beginning of March? Around
It's,
about the beginning of March.
yeah, it may be before that, it may be slightly after that, but it's the month of March is the performance time. Yeah.